Normally, this is how we start the show. We say, welcome to Unlapped. That is not going to be allowed today because we have a man on a bull. Mr. Saunders, take it away.
Welcome to Unlapped.
Really?
This is not my first rodeo. That's what I was going to go with. It is Liz Lowe's first rodeo.
Yeah.
It's not
In
Nicole's
Austin.
first
It's not
rodeo.
mine,
No.
But we're in Austin for the US Grand Prix. How was
There
that?
you
That
go.
wasn't
I
too
was
bad.
expecting like more.
I am a little bit. It is a bit unsteady on this, so I was going to like really go for it, and then
So-
I realized I didn't want to do that.
This is actually a real bull that has been taxidermied. It is here for marketing purposes. We brought this in, as in ESPN. We had like a real life cowboy here earlier today.
Yeah.
Like
He was
lassoing things.
He was lassoing this, which is not a real
No.
bull. And you can tell it's my first rodeo because I am completely befuddled as to how to perch upon it. How to,
You have to side saddle it because you're
right,
in
I'm wearing a dress.
Right.
But also now I've chosen the wrong side.
These are things I just don't have to
you
worry
know?
about
And
No.
so
as,
it's
a,
going to be
as a
it's
man
going
in
to be
jeans.
awkward for everyone.
I have to be honest. Would you get on this?
Yeah.
I'm a little freaked out by the
Eyeballs?
deadness of it. Yes.
I mean, if it's dead, it can't bite you, right?
Yeah.
I think the deadness is the only reason I got on.
Yeah.
To be fair.
I would
I
prefer
don't-
to get
yeah.
on a dead
Probably
bull than a
Yeah,
live
yeah,
bull.
yeah, the
yeah,
live- the
more
live
likely to
bull-
get on a dead than a live,
A
but
live
still
bull
fine.
I would not be sitting on right now. I can guarantee that.
Have we
Um,
had a fun day here today?
It has
Ooh,
been
I don't know
very,
what to
very
do
fun. And as you can tell from us being on this, there's been a lot of ESPN related things to do.
Yes.
We've all kind of had crazy days doing different things.
We've all been on the track.
We've all been on the track. We've all.
Yeah,
You
yeah. I
went
took
with
a little.
Lance.
Excuse me while I get situated.
Yeah,
Adjust. You were in the car with Lance Stroll, right?
I took the Valhalla, which is Aston Martin's like closest to an F1 car that is commercially available. Only 999 units made,
Only?
under 1,000. In fact, but yes,
What's the dollar mark on that?
out
Do
of
you
my
know?
budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I know. I do not know where I could ever drive that fast, nor be able to
Yeah.
afford it. But still, an excellent experience. We went around 3 times, and we hit over 170 miles per hour.
Yes.
And Liz was very diligently learning these facts earlier. 999 units,
I got
not
it.
1,000.
Got it.
So,
No, no,
and
no.
we've got a little group of the photographers here.
There
Hey
we go.
guys.
Yeah.
How's
And
it
then
going?
who were you with? Because you and I both
I
went in
went- I
Ferraris.
went
We
with-
went 438s.
Yeah, we were both sat there like little school children on the
Yes.
first day of
Because
school.
I had Ollie Behrman.
Which is great, and Ollie's so sweet,
Yes.
isn't he? Such a nice
He's
guy.
such a sweet kid. And I say kid because he's only, 20?
Yeah.
But I had said to him, like, look, I am married to somebody who is a professional race car driver. I have done ride-alongs before. So he was like, oh, that means I can't scare you. And I was like, oh, no, you can try. And give him credit. He went...
He tried?
He efforted.
Did he? Did he manage to?
He did not scare me. We were fully sideways at least 3
Yeah.
times. We came in, the tires were absolutely smoking.
Yeah, yeah.
He gave it his all. And it was good.
That's
it was
good. I had similar because we both went as the first in
Yes.
that car. I had Jack Crawford, so the American driver for Aston Martin, part of their reserve program.
Yes.
Missed out on a Cadillac seat, which obviously was kind of
Yeah,
an elephant
yeah.
in the room a little bit. But he was absolutely going for it, and he's a Texas lad. When he saw the big Texas flag, I
was
I
like,
felt him
"Let's
really going for it.
go." The
And that
amazing-
was when I got scared. So those guys, just the way they drive through those things is unreal.
The amazing thing that I thought too was you could tell the difference even from being in the passenger seat when the tires came in, when they actually were fully heated. You can definitely tell the difference in the grip level. You can, as drivers, that you feel it in the seat of your pants, even though you weren't the one controlling it. You could feel those things.
Yeah,
It also
yeah,
got
yeah.
so hot.
Yeah, I got out. I got out,
think
and I was
may
just
have been
dripping with sweat.
sweating
Crazy.
a little bit more because of nerves. Like, he didn't make me scream and he didn't scare me.
Oh,
but I
Ollie
do
was.
I do
Okay.
think that there was some maybe
And
sweat nerves happening.
I said during the lap, I can't imagine what that circuit is like in a single-seater car.
No.
It's actually
so much space.
yeah. It hammers home how good a circuit this is. It's
And
so
it's a
quick.
real racetrack.
It's a real racetrack.
And I think that's one of the
And-
things too that goes. You often can't see the elevation changes on TV. Everything looks flat. Here is a little different. You do see the elevation going into turn 1. Obviously, you see it in Spa as well. But I think whatever you see on TV, it is elevated in person. Whatever you think you see, it's more.
And I'm always taken by how that turn 1 it almost dips away from
blind.
you, and then it goes down and up again.
Yes.
And you see that on TV, but the extremity of that in the car, you
Gets
really
really
feel it.
bumpy, too.
Really bumpy.
Yes.
Yeah, and you
I
can see
always-
why those S's. If you enter that wrong, you've messed your whole
We've
lap up. It's
fishtailed a
crazy.
little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The braking, too, is the thing that I can't imagine.
yeah.
Because those cars, they're high-performance sports cars. Like, they're doing their things. But a Formula One car's ability to brake it is always, I think, honestly, that's probably one of the most amazing things about an F1 car anyway, but to think of the braking capabilities when you're experiencing
Yeah.
it in real time and something else, I think is sort of
Yeah.
crazy.
And while I did feel bad for Jack Crawford not getting the Cadillac drive when he was driving me around Circuit of the Americas in an Aston Martin Vantage. I was like, I'm going to feel a
pretty
little
okay
less sorry
life
for
for
this
him,
guy.
yeah.
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 But hopefully we get to see him race. He's actually doing FP1 in Mexico for
Okay.
Aston Martin. So, maybe a little step forward for him.
Let's be
getting an
honest, the
American on
door
the
for
grid.
him is not closed.
No,
it's just,
it's been slammed towards his face. Maybe not closed, but it's definitely still open.
yeah.
Yeah.
There have been a few news things that have come
Yeah.
out today. Do we want to start with Ferrari or do we want to start with McLaren?
Oh,
I think
good
we start with
question.
McLaren.
Yeah.
I think so too. Just given that they're the dominant team right
So,
now.
in
And, yeah.
typical McLaren fashion, they have taken papaya rules and they've taken a situation that was already muddy and they have somehow made it muddier. And this goes back to Singapore and the aggressive maneuvers on lap 1 between Lando and Oscar Piastri. Like, we all heard the radio, we all saw it. Well, now you were in the press conference. What did McLaren say?
Well, it was almost what they didn't say that really stood out. So McLaren, from what we've heard from the two drivers today, have attributed responsibility for what happened in Singapore to Lando Norris. And as he put it, both in the TV pen over here and to the written press, he said there'll be repercussions that he's facing for the rest of the season. Problem was, he and Piastri didn't clarify what those repercussions are.
Did they clarify if it was like sporting or if it was money?
So that was what was interesting. We asked the team, and privately they said this is sporting, not financial, because it sounded to begin with like, oh, he's just been given a fine, slap on the wrist, move on.
Right.
But then a sporting punishment, as you well know, Nicole, in this sport from covering it so long, that could be literally anything. I mean, that is such a vague, open term. Is it that Lando has to give Piastri a position back if they're in certain positions? Is it that there's an upgrade part that one of them will get
Lando
over the other? I
doesn't
don't
get.
think it would be that, but the fact they haven't clarified it leaves all of those interpretations open. And we were just saying it before we started recording. If something happens this weekend, and Lawrence Edmondson, our colleague, said this to me in the media center, if something happens random this weekend to Norris or to Piastri even, people might be like, well, hang on, is that
That
what you were
could be
talking
enough.
about? Yeah, and so
Right.
they've created another thing.
It's
McLaren
very
this
on
year.
brand, right? In
It
that
is,
way,
yeah.
that I was thinking it's papaya principles
Yeah, I
instead
love
of
that.
papaya rules, right? we have to continue to
But
keep
even
this.
that, like, what are the principles?
Well,
that's
it,
the
yeah.
point.
Clear
That's
as
the point. We don't
freaking
know.
mud.
It's
And-
secret.
And McLaren seem to not know either.
Yeah.
So McLaren all year have tried to have this line of fairness between their drivers, and I think every time they've stepped that more, they've actually made it less fair. Because if I was to give a situation to yourself and to Liz and say what's fair here, you'd both have a different take on it,
Well, it's
just because you
subjective.
see it,
Sure.
you see it through your own eyes. And McLaren are trying to attribute fairness to things that just aren't fair, and they're trying to attribute like they've got two bulls in the stable, not one.
Right.
And both drivers think they're the bull. Is that
there
good?
any-
Is that a
it
good metaphor?
Yeah,
don't know.
I like your metaphors. Is there any way that you could look at it and think, okay, they have chosen sides?
Well, this was something Piastri was asked as well about, this idea of favoritism, and have they been favouring Lando over him? Now, if you go back and look at the incidents this year, I think Lando's probably come out of them better in terms of the 50-50s, but there's been a good reason for each one. I don't know if that's...
It's my plane. It's coming in.
Yeah.
It's mine.
This is the papaya...
That's your PJ?
It's just the small one.
It's the,
Okay.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Nicole's
papaya...
PJ is
I
just
told her to
a
do a
quick trip.
flyover just so that I could make sure that the
Yeah.
the paint
Yeah.
looked fine.
But before the papaya plane interrupted me, I think Lando Norris has come off better in all of those situations. But I don't think that's been malicious. I think that when they've looked at them in the moment. But if you're Piastri...
But not in terms of, audience perception.
No,
I don't
exactly.
think.
And I think that it is important that McLaren take note of that most
Right.
people have seen the way the season's gone and have thought, well, you're kind of favouring Norris here. And Norris has been at the team longer.
Mm-hmm.
He was plucked by Zach Brown,
Yeah.
from obscurity when he was young. So, it's a story that, if you add it up in the right way, does add up completely. Piastri denied that. He said absolutely no, favourability towards Lando.
But
He's
also,
always-
that's exactly what he's going
that's
to
a sound
say.
Exactly,
thing to say.
exactly.
That is
And Piastri-
politically
What
sound
else
thing
is
to
he
say.
gonna
Yeah,
say?
exactly. So Piastri, I think, has always been very clever about the way he deals with that. But I think that what was clear after Singapore, the biggest thing I could deduce from the way when I spoke to people close to Piastri was they were upset that Lando didn't get a slap on the wrist on the radio like Piastri did in Austria and in Hungary when
Yep.
he nearly drove into Lando. And also, I think Piastri very much thinks, whether it's intentional favourability or not, I think he thinks Lando's come out better from those situations, and he has to put his foot down and say, I can't allow
boundaries.
myself. Yeah. If you think between Monza and Singapore, through two very different situations, he lost 6 points to Norris.
Right.
You know, if he loses the championship by less than that,
Right.
he'll look at those two races and say.
And this
you know,
race in
is that-
particular has always been tight between the
Yeah,
two. Last
yeah.
year they placed 4th and 5th respectively, Lando in 4th and
Yeah.
Oscar in 5th here last year. Also, it has been 3 races since McLaren has been on the top spot of the podium. So
Yeah.
And
not
Oscar hasn't been on the podium either.
And let's not
That's
forget
true, yeah.
Let's not forget who's finished ahead of both cars at all 3 races is Mr. Max Verstappen,
Yes.
which I think is what is almost complicating the situation even more. Because if Max wasn't there, I think McLaren could have sat their drivers down and been like, right, we're going to just have you guys finish line of stern for the next
Right.
couple of races.
Line of
calm
stone?
it down. Line of stern.
Line
I
of
think
stern.
Line of stern.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I think that's a
I don't
very
know that
English
phrase,
phrase.
but,
well, probably most
I've
of our American
learned.
audience don't. I think it means one in front of the other.
Yeah.
Line
Our
of stern. I've learned something.
English producer Dave is kind of giving a little nod. It does,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Jog on.
Although I
but-
did think he said line of stone at first too.
Thank
Oh,
you.
maybe.
That's
well,
what I
yeah,
thought
maybe.
I heard as well. But
No,
fine.
That's an accent thing. I disagree. But if Max wasn't there, I think this would be a slightly easier thing to
I
manage.
agree with you.
And I think that I likened it in Baku to like the Jaws music playing every time they see Max. Like he's getting closer and closer. We know what Max is like if he's circling in the water and there's blood, which there is.
He can smell it.
He can get closer. And the last
Yeah.
3 races, he's finished ahead of not just one of the drivers, but
both
both
of them.
And you know he's still far enough away that it seems unlikely. But let's say turn 1, Lando and Piastri collide. Max goes and wins the race.
It
Suddenly,
doesn't take much for the
Yeah.
door to be open.
the door is wide open,
yes.
and Max is too good to
Interestingly,
to not take
I
this.
interviewed Lando today, and he said one of the reasons this circuit is unique is that you don't necessarily have to qualify as well. You can
Yep.
make up time in the race. But I did think it was interesting, given the tension, that he was already thinking of ways out of it. It was a weird thing
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like say, given the positioning. Oscar seemed 100% locked in. And also, wait.
But
to-
don't you also think that is their personalities too?
I do.
Again,
We've
on
talked
display.
about
I
this.
think
We
that's
what we do.
appreciate, how transparent I think Lando is, perhaps to a political fault. Although you're right, it doesn't seem to be affecting him negatively at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting insight because I think that has really, to Nicole's point, has really kind of dictated their year, and that's why this current situation is so interesting as well because I can't imagine what that room would have been like when McLaren told Lando, "You were at fault for that," and this punishment that we don't know about now has to be meted out. I feel like that would have been difficult for Norris to have heard, and it'll be interesting now to see if we get a moment in a race where that is
Right.
communicated to them.
Do you
how he
think
deals
at
with
all
it.
that they do have it cleared up behind the scenes and they just don't want to say it in the public?
Potentially,
I think
it's-
they might have it cleared up in their own minds, but not in actuality.
I think that
I don't even know.
I think maybe that there's because normally what you would do is you'd have the discussion in private and you would say to your drivers and to your team, all
This
we
is what
say
we're
is
doing.
we discussed it,
Yeah.
case closed, and you look at all of us in the media, we ask you over and over again, and you say we discussed it, case closed, boom, end of story. No one mentions it again. Now they've made it a bigger
They've
story.
made it a story.
So it has been a strange couple of months for them in terms of how they've managed it, and ultimately I think that's going to come back and bite them. Just because, as we were saying, one tiny thing, and suddenly it's like, well, what was this? What was behind the scenes here?
So as we move on to the other sort of topic of conversation that was heard a lot. Sorry, I'm being told to eat my microphone. As I was wandering around, I ran into some people that I know, and one of them, and I won't identify in any way, this person said to me about Christian Horner, we need to keep him out of the sport.
Huh.
And all of this is coming again to the forefront because obviously he was dismissed from Red Bull in July. He has now officially left the company, which means he is eligible to join another company in March.
Yeah,
It is
it's anywhere
of,
between.
It's
yeah,
like spring of 2026.
Yeah.
We've heard the rumors of other places, Aston Martin, but now there are Ferrari rumors coming out. And I thought it was really interesting today that Lewis Hamilton was like, this is a distraction to all of us. And let's be honest, that is a team right now that doesn't need anything else to go like in a way that's distracting them or taking them off course. How much validity is there to the conversation that there is a chance Horner goes to Ferrari?
I think chance of him actually going to Ferrari is slim, but I think the idea that there's been contact is high. He gets on very well with John Elkann, who's the Ferrari chairman, and Elkann actually tried to sign him in 2022 when they were replacing Mattia Binotto. And Horner at the time, I remember he told us at a media dinner at the end of that year, he was very close to accepting it. He looked at it, and just the corporate nonsense at Ferrari was worse he said at the time, worse than what I have at Red Bull. And ironically, that corporate nonsense caught up with him in a big way at Red Bull. So I think that, I don't know whether Christian's view would have changed on that, because the Ferrari team boss doesn't really have as much power as he would have had at Red Bull. You know, you're still kind of subject to what's happening above you.
And we've talked about it. We would be surprised if he came back just as team principal. That we would be
Exactly
more likely to think he comes back as team principal and something else.
Exactly
like
that.
a stake in the team or something.
And Ferrari's probably the one place you're not going to get that.
Right.
You know, you're not going to suddenly buy into the dynasty of Ferrari
So
anytime
that's
soon.
Liz's PJ.
Yeah. That's Horner now trying to
The
come over.
undercarriage looks fantastic. They did a great
Yeah.
job with the paint
Yeah,
job.
it looks great.
I used your guy.
So clean.
I
Thank
used
you.
your
Yeah,
guy.
he
But-
loves. Yeah,
But
he's a good one.
I think the big point of that as well that I think is important is I can't see a world where Lewis Hamilton would want to work with Christian
Well,
Horner
I
either.
can't
And that
either.
I think that's the $1 million question.
Because he's
of it.
radioactive at the moment,
Yeah,
Christian Horner
yeah.
is. The aura surrounding his brand seems radioactive, though, you know, you might say that for Flavio Briatore as well. You know,
Yeah,
at a certain
true,
point,
true.
enough time passes, sins are
I
forgiven.
think that's the question. Have we gotten to that point yet?
I don't. I
with
think it's
Christian
too
Horner?
soon.
I think it's too soon. But then again, Formula One, you know, a guy like Horner, I would bet he comes back at some point.
Me
Like
too.
I don't think
But
he's bound for life.
to a team like Ferrari, though, I feel like you're dealing with a big brand there.
Yeah.
A losing team is more. It is more toxic to have a losing team than it is to have a Christian Horner. But is
True.
Christian Horner willing to go to a team that is not,
Yeah.
you know, so prestigious?
But let me look. But if you look at it this way, if you look at every team boss Ferrari's had since they won championships, Stefano Domenicali never won a championship. Mattiacci never won a championship before Ferrari. I mean, as well as at Ferrari. Arriva Bene never did. Bonotto never won a championship. Fred Vasseur, as well as he's rated, he's never won a Formula One World Championship. Christian Horner's presided over 8 drivers' championships, 6 constructors. So in terms of the pedigree coming in,
Right.
that would probably be the way Ferrari
Could
spun
we
it.
read more about this Ferrari history?
Yeah,
Any place,
we
Nate?
could actually.
Is there a
If
spot
only-
that we
if
could
only-
delve into?
You know what I should have done
Do
is
you know
had the
anyone
book
who
here.
wrote a book
something-
on it?
Yeah. If only we knew how F1's greatest team could win again, that would be great, right?
That's what a title.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I can't take any credit for that. The publishers did all that good stuff. That's my book, by the way, just to clarify. Forza Ferrari,
Right,
how
in case
F1's
you weren't
greatest team
picking
could win
up
again.
on all of the sarcasm.
But to just to
He
just
has a
to-
book, but not a PJ.
Yeah,
That's for
yes,
us,
yes,
you know?
that's next.
Neither do we.
But just to put a bow on that point, I mean, I think that's where in this sport, you know, for better or for worse, the stopwatch is ultimately what
Yeah.
drives all those decisions. And as much as Christian Horner is quite radioactive, and I think a lot of
Right.
teams here would happily have seen the back of him forever. If you're Ferrari and you can bring in Horner, you know, it's one of those things where you're like, well, look, we've got Lewis Hamilton, best driver ever. We've got Horner, one of the great, from a performance standpoint, one of the great team bosses of all time. I can see why Ferrari might want him. I just don't, to Nicole's point about buying in, I just can't see that working. And I think that he'll come into an Alpine, maybe even an Aston in some way, but I think Alpine seems to be the sensible one. But who knows? I mean, again, Formula One, none of us would have predicted Lewis being a Ferrari, you know. But the Lewis 2021 scars are still there, and I just don't see him wanting to work with Horner. I think there was a lot of bad blood between those two teams. And even though we now have Perez and Bottas working together at Cadillac next
It's
year,
different.
It's
It's
very
different.
Yeah, those two guys
Yes.
weren't in the brunt of it in the same way, and I think
No.
that there is a real animosity or a real feeling of mistrust between Horner or certainly from Hamilton to Horner.
Yes.
And I just think that would stop him wanting that, you know.
So let's see. Those were the two sort of like big talking points. But when we woke up this morning, was it this morning or was it yesterday? I don't know. Time is a flat circle and it's all running together. Some of the bigger news in the weekend is that Mercedes has finally announced their 2026 lineup. Shocking of all shockers, it is George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. What the hell took them so long?
I know. I mean, poor Russell was put through the ringer with it, wasn't he?
Yes.
And I do feel like he was made to look a little bit of a fool at some points
I agree.
you know, Toto Wolff was going around being like, I'd bend over backwards, I'd do somersaults, I think he said, to get Max Verstappen.
Why
And-
do that to him?
Yeah, and
he can.
what was interesting about it though was that there was the suggestion of a multi-year deal, and the conventional wisdom in the paddock has been for a while that George will get a 1-year deal to kind of free them up to get Max maybe down the line. But I think that's now where the pressure has gone towards Antonelli.
Yes.
He's got a 1-year deal, and if he doesn't perform next year, I think Wolff looks to move him on. Not just Verstappen, but we've heard these rumours a little bit about Charles Leclerc maybe wanting to go elsewhere, Ferrari out there. So, yeah, interesting stuff. And I think, yeah, that to me was how that dynamic shifted a bit. But yeah, if you're George Russell, you'd be pretty pissed, wouldn't you, at how that's all
Yes.
gone down? Made Mercedes
Time
look bad.
out. The man, the myth, the legend
Oh,
has
here
now
we go.
arrived.
Look, I leave you alone for one podcast episode, and you put Nate on top of a ball. I mean,
Sorry.
it is impressive.
Well, I
but,
mean, you did big time this and showed up
It
late.
has made.
so.
I've got to say, it has made it a weird dynamic. I've been
Would
kind
you
of
like
looking
a
down
seat
on
the
Liz and
phone
I know.
bowl?
And I'm
let's
turned
I think
very
for,
weird to
for
the
today's
side.
purposes, I don't want to block block you out the shop. But
So you were
where were we?
late because you were just speaking to Laurent Mekies.
Correct, yeah.
What news can you break to us? What information can I'm not saying news, but like
Well-
what can you tell us?
Yeah, so I mean, Lauren is interested interview. I mean, he's so different to Christian, the person that he replaced, in that he's very considered about everything. He's, he doesn't want to commit necessarily to any big statements, but he's quietly getting the job done. And it was just quite interesting hearing how much fun he's having there as well. Joining Red Bull, he says like he goes around and he's finding out what's in all the little boxes and stuff like that, because for years he's been on rival teams. Okay, Racing Bulls, maybe not the biggest rival because it's owned by Red Bull as well, but he was at Ferrari. So, during that time, Red Bull were going and winning championships, and I think he really wanted to know what was going on underneath the hood, and now he's finding out. So, yeah, very interesting chat like that. He wouldn't give me anything on the driver situation for next year, which I think is obviously one of the more interesting things for Red Bull going into 2026, other than the decision that hasn't yet been made, and they're giving themselves the time, and all of the drivers that they are considering are very fast, which is true, but clearly some are looking a bit faster than others, and he's definitely a fan of Isaac Hadjar. There's no doubt about that. So that seems to be the way things are moving. He didn't say that, but that does seem to be the way things are moving. But he was very complimentary of Isaac and the performances he's put in this year, in his rookie year.
Yeah, and did Mekies, the thing that's been amazing about him has been he's refused to take any credit for Red Bull's kind of turnaround since he took over. Was it 2 wins? 2 wins? 2 wins and a sprint win.
Two wins, and and also they came pretty close in Singapore.
Yeah, and Max being back in the title fight, but every time he's asked, he said no credit whatsoever. Did he give any indication that he's maybe changed his mind on that? Or?
No. He's still as modest as ever, and I think that is very much his style as well. He wants to talk up the people who are there, and there is some truth to that. He said basically looked at the car, and they looked at the ways they could improve it, and they did find stuff. And I think there has been a change in methodology there, but it's not all. Well, he says it's not all come from him. I think it's certainly been facilitated by his arrival. But no, I mean, you know what he's like. No, I mean, you've been in the same things. He hasn't changed his mind in 2 weeks and saying all of a sudden, yeah, it's all me.
Yeah.
He's still saying that.
That would be really great if he did. If he just walked in one day and he was like.
But
that is so not Laurent's style,
No,
and that's why I think he's really has been a breath of fresh air there, because he is so different, and he really has this engineering approach. We've seen that so many teams over the last few years. They brought in engineers as team principals, and most of them have gone really well. I'm looking at Williams with James Vowles,
Right.
and they're obviously Racing Bulls as well, bringing Laurent Mekies in, and now Alan Permain. The steps they've made, I think we shouldn't forget that. Racing Bulls is now regularly a pretty fast car, and guess who was team boss there? Until 3 months ago, it was Laurent Mekies.
Since you're here, coming a little closer this way. Liz doesn't bite. The
Yeah.
bull is fake, by the way.
I
It
just
doesn't
don't
bite
wanna-
either.
I don't want to cut Liz out the
You
shot.
can-
Since
that
you
is
are
very
here,
kind of you.
give
You're
us
right.
a quick track preview of what to expect when we actually get on the track this weekend. And a quick reminder, this is a sprint race weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this, I think, is one of the drivers' favourite tracks, certainly of the tracks that have been added in the last couple of decades. It was 2012 when this one first came in. And because it's got that fast-flowing S's to open the lap, it's got undulation. Depending on whether they've resurfaced it recently, I don't think they have. It sometimes has a lot of bumps because the ground underneath our feet has moved around since 2012 and created a lot of bumps around the track. So it's a track with a huge amount of character and a track where you can overtake. Interestingly, McLaren don't actually think they're going to be that quick here, because they look at the corner types and they say, we've actually started to struggle at races compared to some of our rivals with corners like this. However, as Laurent Mekies just pointed out to me when I asked him about his chances of going and taking victory and beating the McLarens, he said it's hot, and the McLarens do go well in the hot because they're able to look after their tyres.
Sorry, I
Yes,
have someone
later.
shadowing. I have someone shadowing here today, and she's like, "Ah, it's so cute." So Lewis Hamilton was just walking by, so we needed to point that out.
So we just had Lewis Lewis Hamilton walking by there. That
And he
was-
smiled.
Lewis Hamilton walking by, and he saw you sitting on a bull.
Yeah, so I think
And
every
he
time-
will never look at you the same way
anytime
again.
I ask him a question going forward, he's going to be like, "Wasn't that the idiot I saw on the bull in
Yes,
Austin?"
yeah.
I think that's basically my career.
This is
my
what's
career's just
happened.
plummeted.
Just on Lewis, we had him down at this setup earlier today, and they got him doing some lassoing, and he played some. Is it cornhole? Is that what it's called?
Cornhole,
Yes.
yes.
Played some cool, but his lassoing. Nate and I had to go at this yesterday at the Williams event. Lassoing is hard.
Oh,
it
amazing.
took us about 30
I also
minutes.
love how you say
do
it.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
Lassoing.
lassoing is difficult.
We would say
as well,
lasso.
yeah.
They say lasso.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Lassoing.
Don't stop
Yes.
it.
Lassoing is
Be
hard.
more of an American. Be more.
Do you guys
blunt
like the
about
series
it.
Ted Lasso? Have you seen that?
Anyway, Lewis turns up and he lassoed that cow with one go. Just like got
Do you
it,
think
swung
it
it above
was
his head,
luck,
knew what he was
though?
doing. It looked a little bit like he'd done it before, but genuinely he was taking instruction from the guy who I guess does it
I
all
mean,
the
you
time.
don't think this activation has happened for the past couple of years?
No, it
But I
hasn't.
think-
Some way,
but-
not
No,
maybe
this is
here,
first-
but elsewhere.
But I,
No.
No,
No,
I don't think we lose. But the other thing that was interesting is that he took instructions so well, and that's something that all these drivers do when they talk to their engineers.
Yeah.
Is like they,
That's-
basically they had shown once, he understood it, he was able to
Yeah.
repeat it, do it, done.
And
That's
Charles-
this little
Charles
chap.
also did
Yeah.
it in
Did
his
he?
first go.
well, on
as
that
well.
point, the Williams event we went to, this poor woman was telling me over and over again how to do it, and I kept being like, "Can you just explain to me again that?" And like I couldn't get the rope up, and she kept being like, "Oh, bless y'all, bless y'all,
Bless y'all.
heart," or whatever
Bless
it was.
y'all's heart.
And I just couldn't get it, and that is a really good point. And I think that a lot of these drivers remind me of the kids at school that you gave them a ball, a tennis ball, a bat, whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm really good at this," out of nowhere, and you're like, "Great." They're just
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
just superb at everything they do.
Professional
Yeah.
athletes
So-
are athletically inclined.
Yeah, and there must be something in the way those guys are built because it's just
Yeah.
They just get
special
it.
stuff. Yeah.
All right, what are we missing? We've hit on Ferrari, we've hit on McLaren, we've hit on Mercedes finally announcing. We got your stuff in here now. What is the biggest storyline we think we're going to see going into the weekend?
Well,
Other than the ones we've already tackled.
potential elephant in the room, given that we're ESPN, but there is one that we think might come, which is Apple and a
Yeah.
TV deal in the US. I think we should mention that because it is coming up,
Yeah.
which has quite big ramifications for
Probably
the
hear
weekend.
that on Friday.
But I think on track, I think we go back to the McLaren situation just
Yeah.
because it not only has ramifications with Piastri and Norris, but also, like we said, with Max there. It feels like if anything happens there, I mean, we've been talking about this a little while now. If Verstappen can get himself back in this title fight, I'm all in on Verstappen all the way. That would just
Yeah.
be such a good story.
Because there's blood in the water, and that's
yeah.
just, he's ruthless
Exactly.
that way.
So I would say that, but then, maybe, who knows? I mean, I can't see Ferrari winning again here like last year. That was the big shock last year, wasn't
No.
it? So
But I don't know. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, talked about it a lot. The consequences that Lando Norris is facing, whatever they are, I think there's going to be a lot of guessing around that. I don't know if you guys mentioned that,
We
but
have.
like, if
Well-
something happens, people are going to say, "Oh, wait, is that McLaren's consequences or not?" Sorry if you mentioned.
No,
that
we
already,
did, but I shouted out that was your point in the media center. So
Right.
I'd already said it. I took the credit for it, but I said
I'll shut
you
up now,
mentioned
no.
it.
Right.
No, but it's a good point.
And
though,
Liz
because,
has now named
yeah.
them papaya principles.
Instead of papaya rules.
Oh,
Because
is that what
it's really
is that what they
clear.
call it?
Liz-
Those
Liz-
hard
yeah,
pie
I did.
principles.
That's
Oh,
me.
Pie
no, I
principles,
like it.
yeah. But again, it's so very on brand with McLaren to take something that could be very easily, we've discussed it, we have moved on. End of story, we stopped talking about it. And they've taken something and they've added zero clarity to it.
Yeah.
They've almost made it more of a talking point, and that seems so very on brand for them. And it does not help their drivers throughout the title fight.
No.
It does not help them stay focused. It becomes a distraction. A little like Lewis was talking about, this Christian Horner nonsense is a distraction for the team. Every time one of those guys has to answer the same question about papaya rules or papaya principles, or is that retaliation? Is that the consequences? It is something else they have to think about that takes away from what they should be focused on.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't put it any better. I think that's why, again, to that point, it's so weird they didn't just shut it down.
Just
today.
shut it down.
Just don't
And
feed
it's
the
not a hard
beast.
thing to shut down.
I think-
just shut it down.
I think Lawrence has made the point before that in 2016, we had the most boring run-in ever with Nico Rosberg because every single weekend he'd sit in the media and he'd say, "I'm just focused on this race, just focused on this race," and we hated it. We were like, "There's no stories to this," but for him, it just meant there was no controversy around it. He basically just had to get the car over the line in those last races, and he said since, didn't he, that was a tactic he employed to
absolutely,
shut the
yeah,
media,
yeah,
shut
yeah.
the wind
Yeah,
down, and then it put all the pressure on Lewis because everyone was asking Lewis those questions, and Lewis was chasing as well. So I think there's a lot to that in the PR game.
Do you know who else just said that to me a minute ago
Wait,
when I
who?
asked him about chasing down a championship and taking the fight to McLaren? Lauren Mekies. He said, "No, we only look at it race by race, and so." But actually, I think it is probably the sensible way to certainly address it in the media, but also internally. There's no point in getting massively overexcited about something that is still a very long way away. You've got to chip away. You've got to get the results as results.
Yeah.
One DNF for Max, forget it.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Yeah, but that is it, isn't it? If he gets close and then there's a DNF in 3 races, then I think that's pretty bad.
This weekend, including this weekend, 6 races to the end of the season, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 6.5 because we have the sprint
Okay.
here.
Well, we have.
Oh,
two-
sorry.
three
Sorry.
It's-
sprint
it's-
We
races.
have 3 left, don't we? Of course
okay,
we do.
so we're
7.5 races.
Yes. Okay. All right. Let's get our predictions in. I didn't look at yours.
Okay.
It's still proof.
Oh, you
it's
should
on
put
my
them in
phone.
an-
It's an
in like an
unread.
envelope
It's
to,
an
like,
unread.
reveal them.
Look, I'll show you. So you believe me. Liz, you can go first.
Okay, I have them.
All right. See, still there, unread.
Do we go 3, 2, 1 or 1, 2, 3?
Whatever you want.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Max Verstappen, baby Max Verstappen, aka Oscar Piastri, George Russell.
Wow.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, well, I was going to go Max number 1, Piastri 2, Lando 3, with some papaya principles thrown in. I reckon they swapped the positions or something.
Ooh.
Nicole, this is a moment where you have to open my message because it is the same as Nate's.
Oh, damn. Okay.
No way.
But just to prove it, and this was sent prior to recording.
It was.
Yeah.
And mine is the same as yours.
Okay.
I was going Max, Oscar, and then George. I think
So we're all on the Verstappen hype train. Which
we're
I love.
all on Verstappen and Oscar. The only place that we can be different is in third. It's either Lando or bust.
And that is interesting that we've all gone that way because in the last couple of races, I would say Norris has probably been the stronger of the two.
I think
McLaren
papaya.
drivers.
I think papaya rules are going to come into play.
So that it shows you that we do think there's some nonsense coming.
Yeah.
Because that is something that should be said about Norris is that for all the controversy around that move to Piastri, it was nice seeing that fight from him, even if it did skirt the team rules or whatever. It's the first time we'd really seen him kind of grab the bull by the horns, if you want to say that.
Well done.
I was thinking about grabbing the bull by the horns, and I thought
I
I'd
think
probably
you should stay
I'd probably
there.
die.
Yeah,
I'd probably kill
you're gonna
myself.
fall down. Don't do that.
Yes.
Also, to anyone listening to this podcast, if you haven't guessed already, I'm sat on a bull. I don't know if
sat
that's-
on a
I don't
bull
know if I've
that's
actually
been
said that to people listening
taxidermied.
yet.
A dead
If you've
bull,
suddenly
yeah.
been like, what on earth? Why has Nate made like 3 different bull references?
That's why. He's not wearing a cowboy hat, though,
But,
so
but
that's
yeah,
a disappointment.
Yeah, so Lando has a good chance to prove us all wrong and comprehensively beat Piastri tomorrow. And if he does that, I think maybe it changes the kind of the dynamic around how we see the fight. Because if he beats Piastri on merit tomorrow, then I think you've got to look at the run-in a little differently.
All right, that does it for us for now. We're here all weekend, though, so you can get more content. Because remember, if you are watching us on the ESPN F1 YouTube channel, awesome, great, thank you. Remember, subscribe, like us, because you'll find us there all season, all year long. And wherever you're else, just hit us up with a 5-star review. We will see you in a few days from Austin.
Yeehaw!
Yeah.